You have to expect the unexpected. So, my 3 tips. Number 1.
Welcome to Requity Insights, a channel dedicated to documenting our journey to 100 world-class communities.
Welcome back to Requity Insights. Today we're joined by Jen Ullrich, the Chief Operating Officer of the Requity Group. Jen, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much.
So I want to kind of get right into it. To kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you did prior to the forming of the Requity Group?
Well, honestly, like 10 years ago, I was an event planner. I was an event planner for a financial service company in downtown Manhattan. And I was planning, let's say, 5 to 25 events at one time.
Wow.
And I was working a W-2 job, and as a W-2 employee, you chase a paycheck. So living in downtown Manhattan was not cheap. So basically, I needed a different avenue to make additional income.
Yeah.
So I found real estate. And then in 2015, I purchased my first property. So that's a little bit about my background and how I got here.
Prior to the Requity Group,
Mhm.
did you have a mentor? Did somebody kind of point you in the direction of real estate, or was that like organic? You yourself were like, this is where I want to go.
So when I moved, actually moved to New Jersey, and I made a bunch of friends. I had a friend who was a property manager, and different friends who introduced me to podcasts and Bigger Pockets, and you know all those ones.
Yeah.
And basically, the podcasts and real estate books was my mentor. So that's how I got into it.
Okay. So you bought a single family.
Mhm.
How did you get started, I guess, in the commercial side of things? Kind of like how did that happen? And then how did that lead you to your role today as COO?
Yep. So buying one single family, there's not much cash flow there. And then the first time you have a maintenance issue or a CapEx item, and there goes your cash flow.
Yeah.
So one single family led to two single families, led to a duplex, and then eventually led to an 8 unit. So that was my first dabble in the commercial space.
Okay.
Getting a commercial loan and then obviously managing that 8 unit by myself. I learned a lot about the property management space.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow, that's impressive. I guess from the beginning, did you know you had strengths on the management side, or were you kind of stumbling through it? Could you tell us about that journey?
To be completely honest, I didn't know.
Okay.
It all actually was a surprise to me that the event planning set me up for success with the property management business. One, in property management, things happen that you normally don't deal with all the time. And that actually came from event planning as well. So in, event planning, you would have the Wi-Fi go out or the power go out or a speaker late to your event. So you'd have to really think on the fly and think critically.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how property management is as well. Things happen that you've never encountered before. So that actually set me up for success in this role. And so I'm learning on the fly all the time
Yeah.
because different things happen and juggling multiple events at the same time has let me juggle now 19 properties at the same time because there's things going on at 19 properties all the time, and I kind of keep, in contact with the managers and a pulse on what's going on. So it definitely helped me.
Yeah. I see the connection between those two. So with the Requity Group, we obviously have a portfolio that has some multifamily, it has some mobile home communities, and it has RV campgrounds. So managing a portfolio of different asset types, how do you try to approach operational efficiencies or just kind of standardizing your operations for each property?
So to be completely honest, a lot of our RV campgrounds are very similar to the mobile home asset class,
Okay.
right? So a lot of our majority of our campgrounds are long-term RV sites. So which kind of operates the same as a mobile home, right? So we have an annual site agreement and we have to renew those site agreements every year. So very similar on the mobile home side. So I can develop leasing and tour processes that serve both.
Okay.
It's the transient side of the business that's a little bit different,
Yeah.
right? So you have to market to your transient audience, and you have to create events to attract that transient audience to come to your campground,
Yeah.
and you have to create amenities that make people want to stay with you. So that's the different part, and I have to create SOPs or standard operating procedures for both. So that's what I'm actually doing right now to, set our managers up for success. I'm, building those SOPs for both sides, for, the long-term campground and obviously our long-term residents, as well as the transient side of the business. So it's definitely a work in progress,
Mhm.
but because we do have similarities across the asset classes, it's a little bit easier for me to develop those processes.
That makes sense.
Mm.
Would you say that, or I guess my question would more be taking those two asset classes, what are the main differences? If you could highlight just kind of high level, what would be the main difference between those two for you?
So one is a hospitality aspect of the business. So the
Yeah.
RV campground, this is not their most of the time, it's not their primary residence. So this is their home away from home.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that hospitality aspect, like a hotel that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And then for the mobile home side, it is their home where they're creating memories and they're living with especially a mobile home. It could be they stay there for 20 years.
Yeah.
It could be the RV campground as well. But there's that main difference is the hospitality aspect versus your normal residential tenant.
Yep. Yeah, for the RV side, it's a little bit more of a vacation destination for the most part,
Correct.
versus the other one is a living situation.
Yep. And you have to provide those amenities to attract that guest to, spend their disposable income on a home away from home.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about the onboarding process for these
Mhm.
properties? So once you actually acquire them, how does your role change pre-acquisition and then once it's officially onboarded?
Yep. So I've been involved in 19 of them. So I feel I'm an expert at this point, but it changes every time. So the first thing I do is determine what type of asset it is, right? Mobile home, RV. Then obviously with an RV campground, is my clientele a long-term guest or a transient guest?
Okay.
So I have to one do the due diligence on the market and do the due diligence on the guest to determine, our plan of action. And then I have to be involved in, okay, what's our improvement plans of the property? Do we have to upgrade the amenities? Do we have to add more amenities? If it's a transient campground, do I want to add stuff that would do increase revenue on the property, like a gem mining station or things like that? So that's the first part. And then there is like the actionable steps of building the reservation software, transferring the utilities, and basically just getting to know the property and the area more because you need to understand why people are coming to the area and what else there is to do besides at your campground. Because you want to
Okay.
recommend, like at Northern Kentucky RV Park, there's the Ark Encounter. So you want to suggest other things to do in the area while they're there.
You mentioned the gem mining station.
Mhm.
Besides that, do you have other early impact projects that are not, I wouldn't say standardized, but that are common to do across multiple of these projects?
Yeah, so you have laundry. That's an easy way to add revenue, right? If your laundry is coin operated or is not pay, you can add laundry machines that take a card and you can have a revenue share with that company. Arcade games are a really good idea to add um, as a revenue income stream if there's no arcade games. So we can do little things like that. If the camp store isn't really making money, you can identify things to sell. Like if it's a transient park, you definitely want to sell firewood. You definitely want to sell ice.
Okay.
Those are definitely things that you can add to increase the revenue of your property.
Okay. And in terms of, let's say, resident amenities, are there some other things that are done as well? So those are the revenue generating ones. What about just aesthetics or kind of resident experience?
Yep. So I feel like everyone has a fur baby now,
Yeah.
right? If you do the research, about 50% of RVers travel with their pet. So dog parks. You
Okay.
definitely want to have a dog park. obviously people travel with their families to campgrounds. And obviously in mobile home communities, there are families that live in your communities. So a playground is a great thing to add. Obviously, it's not an income generating amenity, but it could help with retention, right? If you have things that they can do on site and not leave, then they're more likely to stay multiple years.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are great. All right, so the Requity Group's been around for roughly 3 years. In that time span, we've acquired 19 properties, including closing on 8 of them in 2022 alone.
Yep.
So what was that experience like for you? That's a lot of growth from any perspective. So,
Yeah. I'm not gonna say it wasn't hard. It was definitely hard. But personally, as a leader in this business, I've grown the most as a person, as a manager, as a leader over the last 3 years. I've had to have tough conversations with residents. I've had to have tough conversations with team members, and it has mostly shaped me in my leadership role here the most. It's been really fun. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But it's been hard.
okay. In terms of what you've done to adapt to that, do you see yourself adapting better with each property?
Oh my goodness, yes. It's every property is a new experience.
Yeah.
You have different guests with different needs and different life experiences and different um perspectives. I have learned so much from our guests that I've spoken to. Is for every takeover, I'm usually on site. And I get to speak to the guests about our company and our vision for the property and, hear about their 20 years at the property. So it's been really impactful for me to one, get to know them, and then two, um, have them provide what they like to see in the property. Because obviously I give them our vision, but I'm also interested in learning what they haven't had or what they want to see in the property. So we can help improve the property not only for us, but also for them.
Yep. So you mentioned something there,
Mhm.
time on site. I've heard you have a very impressive number
Yes.
in terms of how much time you spent on site.
Yep.
Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
So in 2022,
Yeah.
with those 8 acquisitions,
Yeah.
I was on the road 130 days. And only because my car rental app tells me how many days I
Yeah.
rent a car.
Yeah.
I'm not, ticking off a box every time I travel.
Yeah.
But I love to learn. So I like to be boots on the ground. I like to earn my stripes, especially with maintenance.
Yep.
If I want our maintenance team to respect me, I need to show them that I'm not afraid to get dirty.
Yep.
Christmas, I was at one of our campgrounds in Gatlinburg, and that was the cold snap. So basically, that was the big freeze in Tennessee. It was 4 degrees,
Wow.
and I am out there, and I was the only manager on property. I was covering for managers. And basically, I was there de-thawing pipes, unfreezing them with a salamander heater. And that's a propane heater if you're not familiar. And basically, you just put it on the pipes so to de-thaw them. And I definitely earned my maintenance badge there.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
I also want to learn about the property, and I want to learn work with the managers to make them better. So it is a lot of time spent on site, but I thoroughly enjoy it. And obviously, my time in the office isn't needed as well. But I really like to get to know our team members, especially the maintenance side and the front desk, and see where their challenges are and how I can help them.
I think that's a great approach. I think with a title such as COO, people could easily assume that you're spending most of your time in an office and
My title is front desk, manager, maintenance, you name it.
yeah. So going into the next question, collaboration across departments is crucial for these properties to work.
Mhm.
How do you foster communication and synergies across different departments, across different teams, states? I mean, you've got a lot of things kind of working
Yeah.
for you and against you.
Well, we have team members across the world now. So it is important to use technology. Obviously, we use our Zoom, we have huddles. Every Monday morning, we have a huddle for the mobile home communities and the RV campgrounds. Slack is a huge communication tool we use. We have different channels. We have a wow factor channel where we celebrate our wins and everybody posts their 5-star Google reviews. That is fostering that community and that teamwork and synergy. Then we have Monday.com. So Monday.com, if you're not familiar, is a project management tool. So basically, if I have an update to a project, we put our communication, our updates. So if we're doing like a electrical upgrade at a campground, I can see where that project is at all times. So the managers making their updates, as well as regional managers and myself. We also use Loom. I love Loom. So if you're not familiar with Loom, it's a screen recording tool. I basically record myself doing a task.
Wow.
I also record myself sharing feedback. So I'm working with a freelancer in Pakistan right now on some promotional videos for our campgrounds.
Wow.
So I am recording myself watching the video and saying where he should edit stuff. I've done that with campground map vendors. I've done that for our team, demonstrating how to do a task in our project management software or in one of the reservation softwares. So those definitely help foster that communication between all of the departments.
Okay. So no, that makes a lot of sense. So it really is leveraging technology to help you guys out. Let's go into tenant satisfaction. So now we kind of know how the team's working together and how everybody's staying connected. But how do you approach tenant relations and ensure a high level of customer service across these different parks or properties?
Honestly, it's leading by example, right? We're nowhere if we're not for our guests and our residents. So when it comes to resident satisfaction, they're number one, no matter what.
Yep.
We don't have any income without residents and guests, and we can't pay our bills and so on. So when I'm on site with a manager, I explain that customer service is my number one. So when you pick up the phone, you're smiling. You may even stand up because you're different. You're different on the phone when you smile,
Yep.
right? So I want to get that across. I want to be relatable. So when I first started managing properties, I was like, oh, business casual. Like we're gonna be business casual in the office. And then I went on site and I was like, nope. I toned it down to a polo shirt
Yep.
and jeans. One, I didn't want our residents to believe that we were better than them.
Yep.
So you want to be relatable. So we provide that best customer service by one, being empathetic to our residents if they have an issue. If the resident is having trouble paying their rent, we provide resources available to them to get help for the time being. So the temporary help. And then you also want to just have empathy. You want to know their dog's name. You want to know their kids' names. All that will show them that you're listening and that you care.
Okay. So while you're doing this, do you have a method for how you actually go about ensuring that your team really embodies this message that you're providing to them? So you're going to the properties, you're showing them firsthand. How do you ensure consistency once you're not there any longer?
So obviously, if I'm there, providing feedback on their interactions with the guest or resident, we also have a call audit procedure where we provide feedback on calls.
Okay.
So we'll listen to the management calls, 3 calls a week, and we will provide them feedback on how they addressed the guest or the customer or the resident, and then did they help them, and then provide any additional feedback on, their service.
Okay. So while managing properties can be very rewarding, we've touched on some of the great aspects of it. What have been some of the more difficult aspects of property management?
You have to expect the unexpected.
Okay.
So obviously there could be, well, one of my first issues on property, I got a call at 1:30 in the morning for a drunk driver that hit one of our mobile homes.
Wow.
This was very early in the beginning of my experience here. So I flew out to North Carolina to be there for my team. and let them know that, hey, I'm available and I'm, with you. I'm part of the team. Um, to expect the unexpected is like my number one rule. Like it's things are gonna happen
No?
and you cannot predict them, you cannot expect them. But just you gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah, I think that's a great mindset to have, especially if you want to succeed in this space,
I mean,
because
that comes from event planning though. Like things would happen.
yeah.
You would have, I once had a guest or an attendee pull the fire alarm at our hotel. I've had speakers get stuck in traffic. So, you have to think quick and you have to just pivot and come up with plan B and C and D.
Would you say that the ability to think on your feet is one of the strongest traits to succeed in property management?
Yeah, because a guest or a resident will come in and then tell you a crazy story of something that happened in their unit or happened on property, and you have to say, "Oh, how would I deal with this?" And
Yeah.
then a manager can call you and say, "Fred, how would you deal with this?" And you have to coach them through it.
Okay. So I want to touch on something that is pretty cool. Um, I know you led an initiative to build an overseas call center. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? What led you to build the team in the first place? What it's been like working with people from other cultures, and what are your biggest takeaways from the experience thus far?
So the first thing I'll say is data speaks, right? You have to listen to the data.
Okay.
So when we were analyzing our call pickup percentage, we noticed that there was room for improvement. So what we noticed when we were analyzing our call pickup percentage was that there was a lot of room for improvement there. So one easy way to help with the call pickup percentage while not adding a ton of payroll to the property was to open a call center. And we opened our call center in the Philippines. One hurdle that we had to overcome was RV parks are not very big in the Philippines. So when planning this, and I spent a month just writing the operations manual for the
Wow.
call center, I had to start with campground 101. I had to start with what's an RV? What does full hookup mean? What's a dump station? So I literally had to start with the very, very basics. And I made campground 101. And then we went from there into answering a call or the our phone system. Then we went into how to book a reservation, how to take this call, and how to take a maintenance call. So I literally built it out step by step as if I'm teaching someone brand new to the business because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And then we had to do mock call after mock call, training each reservation agent on how to address an issue and just throwing them different scenarios. So it took a minimum of 2 weeks just for the first training with
Wow.
our agents. And then we got up and running in October of last year. And we now have 5 call center agents, and they've been doing a great job. We have an auditing protocol where, like I said, there was 3 calls audited every week, and they
Mhm.
provide feedback. Um, they speak really great English. That's one. Obviously, we want our them to provide great customer service on our behalf to
Yeah.
our customers. We have embraced them as part of our team. They are on Slack. They actually request Google reviews from the people they help on the phone, and they're actually getting 4 and 5 star reviews, which is amazing just for
Wow.
booking the reservation. So we really brought them in as actual team members,
Hmm.
and they're in the Slack channel. They're in our Wow Factor. We acknowledge them, we embrace them, and it's been really great. We have some rock star players. Their work ethic is second to none. I really appreciate everything they do for us.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
How do you guys handle the time difference?
So they work our hours, and obviously with the call center, we have the ability to be open. We're not 24 hours yet, but we operate from 8 a.m. to midnight every day. So we have call center agents that are used to working the U.S. hours. That is the Philippines. They're very big in the BPO industry and working U.S. hours. So we're lucky to have people with that experience that work 9 to 5. And then we do have people that work 10 to 6 and 1 to 9. And then we have one gentleman who works from 4 p.m. to midnight our time, which is his daytime. So which is nice.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty nice. Jen, I think that that's a pretty comprehensive guide on property management. Do you have any final takeaways for anybody interested in a leadership role within the commercial real estate space or just interested in property management as a whole?
So my 3 tips. Number 1, trust your gut. Of course, there's laws and there's fair housing, so you want to make sure you're abiding by those, but trust your gut. Your gut's going to tell you if something sounds fishy or something's wrong. 2, pay your vendors. So my number 1 rule is that if we work with somebody, we want to make sure they're paid on time. One of the complaints when I hired team members, community managers on, was that their previous company ruined their vendor relationships because they wouldn't pay them on time.
Well,
So my other number 1 rule is to pay our vendors. Because in the time of need, you want that vendor to be there because they know you're going to pay them and they're going to pay them on time.
yeah.
So that's 2. And then 3 is listen to the data. Obviously, with a call center, I listen to that data. Now our call center, our pickup percentage is in the high 90s
Wow.
because we've added that additional help to answer the phone when the community manager is on a tour or the community manager is on another phone call. So your data is going to speak. Obviously, we have to worry about occupancy. So I am constantly looking at future occupancy. So we need to make sure if our occupancy low is in a future month, we're doing stuff now to accommodate that occupancy for later. Whether it's, doing Google ads, Facebook ads, having an event, promoting an event for those future months so we get bookings now.
Okay.
So listen to that data.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Jen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Absolutely.
That's all for today's show. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Requity Insights hosted by our team at the Requity Group. You can find recordings of all shows along with our opt-in form to set up a call and view future investment offerings on our company website, therequitygroup.com, also listed in the show notes.